My name is Ashley Whitfield, and I am 35 years old. I never imagined I would stand alone at my husband's funeral, staring at empty chairs where my family should have been. Not my parents, not my sister Megan. The people who promised to love me through everything had vanished when that promise actually mattered. Daniel's casket sat 10 feet in front of me, draped in the American flag he had earned through 12 years of Navy service, and the 2 front rows reserved for family held nothing but silence. My phone had been vibrating all morning. I finally pulled it from my purse and saw 44 missed calls. Mom, Dad, Megan, over and over. Then I read the text message my mother had sent 12 minutes ago. Call me back now. Megan's birthday is today. You are embarrassing the whole family by not being here. I read it twice to make sure I understood. My husband was dead. His body lay in a casket 10 feet away. And my mother was furious because I was missing a birthday party. Something shifted inside me in that moment. Not breaking, hardening. I stood there holding my phone, staring at that message, and realized something I should have understood years ago. I had been mourning the wrong loss. Daniel was gone, but the family I thought I had never existed in the first place. The funeral director approached me with soft steps, his voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Whitfield, should we remove the reserved signs from the front rows? It is almost time to begin. I looked at those empty chairs. White placards sat on each seat with names printed in elegant script. Mother of the bride's family, father of the bride's family, sister of the bride's family. Leftover terminology from wedding programs, repurposed for funerals. The irony would have made me laugh if I had any laughter left. Yes, I said. Remove them. Let his brothers sit where my family should be. The director nodded and began collecting the signs. Behind those empty rows, the room was full. Navy veterans filled the seats, sitting straight-backed in their dress uniforms, eyes forward. Some had flown across the country to be here. Some had driven through the night. They had served with Daniel on destroyers and aircraft carriers. They had trusted him with their lives, and he had never let them down. Marcus, Daniel's best friend and former lieutenant commander, moved to the front row. He took the seat that should have belonged to my father. When he caught my eye, he gave me a single nod. Respect, solidarity, understanding. Everything my own family had failed to offer. These men served with Daniel for 12 years, I thought. They crossed the country to honor him. My parents live 40 minutes away and chose a birthday party instead. The chaplain took his place at the podium. He was a weathered man with kind eyes, and he spoke about duty and honor and sacrifice. Daniel Whitfield served his country with distinction, he said. He saved lives. He never asked for recognition. He simply showed up every time, without fail. I sat in the front row, alone on my side of the aisle. I kept my hands folded in my lap, my face still. Throughout the service, my phone continued to vibrate in my purse. I counted 5 more calls during the opening prayer alone. Each vibration felt like an accusation. How dare you choose a funeral over a party? How dare you grieve instead of celebrate? How dare you prioritize your dead husband over your sister's special day? The chaplain spoke the words that finally broke through my numbness. In sickness and in health. My mind flashed to 3 days ago. Daniel in our bedroom, too weak to lift his head from the pillow. His hand reaching for mine, fingers trembling with the effort. His voice barely a whisper as he spoke what would become his final instruction. Do not let them break you, Ash. Promise me. I promised. I did not fully understand what he meant. Now, sitting in this room full of strangers who loved him more than my own blood, I was beginning to. Marcus stood and walked to the podium. He set down a piece of paper, looked at it for a moment, then pushed it aside. I wrote something, he said. But Daniel would not want pretty words. He would want the truth. He looked directly at me. Daniel Whitfield was the best man I ever served with. He pulled me out of a fire that should have killed us both. He carried scars on his arms for the rest of his life because he refused to leave a brother behind. Marcus paused, his voice thick with emotion. Daniel used to say that family is not about blood. It is about who shows up, who stays, who fights for you when you cannot fight for yourself. He gestured to the rows of veterans behind him. We showed up. We stayed. We are his family. Then, deliberately, he looked at the empty chairs in the front row. And those who did not show up, they were never his family at all. I felt tears finally fall, not for the absence of my parents, for the presence of these men who loved Daniel enough to be here. After Marcus spoke, I stepped outside for air. The Virginia afternoon was gray and cool, the kind of October day that feels like the world is holding its breath. I finally looked at my phone properly. The call log told a story of escalating fury. 8:02 in the morning. Mom. Where are you? Megan's party starts at noon, 8:15. Megan. Ashley, Mom says you are not coming? Seriously? 8:34. Dad, your mother is upset. Call her, 9 o'clock. Mom, the photographer is here. We need family photos. 9:22. Megan. This is my day, Ashley. You can grieve later. 9:45. Mom, you are ruining everything. Call me now. The messages continued, each one more demanding than the last. Not a single one mentioned Daniel. Not one said I am sorry for your loss. Not one asked how I was holding up or if I needed anything. They knew the funeral was today. They knew exactly when and where it was happening. They simply expected me to skip it. They expected me to choose Megan's birthday party over my husband's memorial service, and they were furious that I had not. I scrolled to the final text, sent at 11:58, 2 minutes before the funeral began. Megan's birthday is today. You are embarrassing the whole family by not being here. I screenshot every message, every missed call. Evidence, Daniel's voice echoed in my mind. Document everything. I was documenting. I would remember. And when the time came, so would they. The side door of the funeral home opened, and I heard the slow tap of a cane against the floor. I turned to see my grandfather, Harold Brooks, making his way down the aisle. He was 87 years old, and every step cost him something. His hip was bad. The drive from his apartment was 3 hours in good traffic. He was wearing the suit he had worn to my grandmother's funeral 20 years ago. His thin white hair was carefully combed, and his hands shook slightly on the grip of his cane. But his eyes were sharp and clear, and they found mine immediately. Marcus helped him to the front row. Harold lowered himself into the chair beside me and took my hand in his weathered palm. He did not say anything at first. He did not need to. He just sat there, present, solid, the only blood relative who had bothered to show up. I am sorry I am late, sweetheart, he finally whispered. I am here now. He looked at the empty chairs around us, then at the rows of Navy veterans behind us. His jaw tightened. Looks like Daniel's family showed up, he said quietly. Ours did not. I almost laughed. A broken, grateful sound. No, Grandpa. They are at Megan's birthday party. Harold's face hardened. Of course they are. For the first time since Daniel died, I felt less alone. My grandfather had driven 3 hours with a bad hip and worse traffic. Because that is what family does, real family. As the chaplain continued speaking, Harold leaned close to me. Daniel called me 2 weeks ago, he whispered. Asked me to help him with something. Papers. Legal things. I turned to look at him. His eyes were on the casket. He wanted to make sure you would be protected, Harold said. From them. 2 sailors in dress whites approached the casket. They lifted the flag with practiced precision and began the ceremonial folding. 13 folds, each one deliberate, each one meaningful. I watched and remembered Daniel teaching me what they represented. The first fold, a symbol of life. The fourth fold, our weakness, trusting in God through times of peace and war. The 11th fold, glorifying the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The final fold, representing an emblem of our belief in eternal life. The senior sailor knelt before me. His face was solemn, his voice steady. On behalf of the President of the United States Navy, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service. He placed the folded triangle in my hands. It was heavier than I expected. Or maybe that was just the weight of everything it represented. 7 rifles fired 3 times. The sound cracked through the silence like thunder, and I did not flinch. I held the flag against my chest and watched the smoke drift upward. A lone bugler played taps. The notes hung in the air, mournful and beautiful and final. I closed my eyes and saw Daniel's face, young, healthy, laughing, making coffee in our kitchen, sitting on our porch, promising we would grow old together. The music ended. The silence that followed was deafening. Behind me, Marcus leaned forward. "Daniel gave me something for you," he whispered, "after the reception." "Okay." Another secret, another thing Daniel had prepared. I nodded without turning around. People began filing out slowly after the service ended. Veterans shook my hand, hugged me, pressed cards with phone numbers into my palm. "Call any time," they said. "For anything." Harold remained seated beside me, waiting for the room to clear. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick manila envelope, worn at the edges. "Daniel gave this to me 3 weeks ago," he said. "Made me promise to give it to you after the funeral." He placed it in my hands. It was heavier than paper should be. For Ash was written on the front in Daniel's handwriting. Shaky now, evidence of his declining motor control in those final weeks. "What is it?" I asked. Harold's voice dropped. "Protection, sweetheart. From the people who should have protected you." Before I could respond, the funeral director appeared at my side. "Mrs. Whitfield? There are 3 people at the entrance asking to see you. They say they are your family. A woman named Patricia, a man named Richard, and a younger woman. They just arrived. Should I let them in?" I looked at Harold. His face turned to stone. "They finally showed up," he said quietly. "I wonder what they want." I already knew, and thanks to Daniel, I was ready for them. Before I could face them, I needed to remember why Daniel was worth fighting for. My family stood waiting at the entrance of the funeral home, ready to perform their grief, and I stood frozen with an envelope in my hands and a flag against my chest. But my mind pulled me backward, away from this terrible moment, to the beginning of everything. 5 years ago, I did not know what real love looked like. I thought I did. My parents had taught me that love was conditional, earned through achievements, measured in status and salary. Then I met a man who changed everything I believed about what it meant to be truly seen. The Richmond Convention Center was bright with fluorescent lights and forced optimism. Rows of corporate booths lined the exhibition hall, each one promising opportunities for veterans transitioning to civilian life. I was there volunteering with my school district's booth, recruiting veterans for teaching assistant positions. My feet ached from standing since 7 in the morning. My voice was hoarse from repeating the same pitch to dozens of polite but uncertain faces. I was reaching for my water bottle when I noticed him. A man had stopped about 3 feet from my booth. He was studying the banner like he was analyzing a battlefield map, his eyes moving methodically across every word. Tall and broad-shouldered, he carried himself with a stillness that seemed out of place in the bustling hall. His civilian clothes did not quite fit right, a button-down shirt that pulled slightly at the shoulders, khakis that were obviously new. He looked like a man still learning how to dress without a uniform. What caught my attention was the scar. It ran from his left wrist to his elbow, pale against tanned skin. Impossible to miss. He did not try to hide it. "Hi," I said, stepping forward. "Are you interested in education careers?" He hesitated, then met my eyes directly. "I am interested in being useful again." The honesty caught me off guard. Most veterans at these fairs gave polished answers, rehearsed pitches designed to impress. This man had just told me the truth without any packaging. His name tag read, Daniel Whitfield, USN, 12 years. His eyes scanned the room constantly, checking exits, watching movements, cataloging threats that did not exist in a convention center. But when he looked at me, he focused completely. I do not have teaching experience, he admitted, but I trained men to survive. Does that count? I found myself smiling. I think surviving is the most important skill we can teach. He filled out an information card, and I watched him wince as he wrote. His left arm, the scarred one, stayed close to his body. When he caught me looking, something flickered in his eyes. Not shame, wariness. Old injury, he said before I could ask, does not affect my work. He did not explain further. I did not push. There would be time for stories later, though I did not know it then. All I knew was that this man with his careful eyes and honest answers was different from anyone I had met at these events. When the fair ended at 6 that evening, I was packing up my booth when he reappeared. I know this is forward, he said, but could I buy you coffee? As a thank you for actually listening to me today. I should have said no. I had papers to grade, a mother to call back, a sister's engagement party to help plan. I said yes. The diner across from the convention center smelled like coffee and bacon. Red vinyl booths lined the windows, and a waitress who had clearly been working since dawn brought us cups without being asked. Daniel talked about the Navy. Not the glory parts, but the real parts. 12 years on destroyers and aircraft carriers. The friends he made. The ones he lost. We had a saying, he told me, stirring his coffee without drinking it. The ship is only as strong as its weakest sailor, so we made sure no one stayed weak. What made you decide to leave? I asked. His hand moved unconsciously to his scarred arm. The coffee grew cold between us during the long pause that followed. There was an accident, he finally said. Engine room fire. 3 of my men did not make it out. His voice was steady, but his eyes were somewhere else, somewhere hot and dark and filled with smoke. I pulled 2 of them through the hatch, went back for the 3rd. That is when the beam fell. He gestured to his arm. They gave me a medal. I wanted a time machine. I did not offer platitudes. I did not tell him it was not his fault, or that he did everything he could. I just listened. Daniel looked at me with something like surprise. Most people try to tell me it was not my fault, he said. Was it? I asked. No, but that does not make them less dead. I told him about teaching. About the students who reminded me of myself, kids from families where love came with strings attached. I became a teacher because I wanted to show them that someone believes in them, I said. No conditions, no earning it, just belief. Daniel nodded slowly. That is exactly what a good commanding officer does. Something connected between us in that moment. 2 people who had chosen to spend their lives showing up for others. 2 people who understood that service was not about recognition, but about presence. When the diner closed at midnight, neither of us wanted to leave, so we exchanged numbers and promised to meet again. That first date became a second. The second became a third. The third became every weekend, and then every day we could manage between my teaching schedule and his job search. Daniel found work as a security consultant 3 months after we met. It was not glamorous, but it was steady, and it let him use his training in ways that mattered. I watched him learn to be a civilian, grocery shopping, paying bills, making small talk with neighbors instead of issuing orders to subordinates. He struggled with crowds. Loud noises made him flinch. The 4th of July was a nightmare of fireworks that sounded too much like gunfire. I learned to warn him before closing a door loudly. I learned to sit with my back to the wall at restaurants so he could face the room. Small adjustments that felt enormous at the time but became second nature. 3 months into our relationship, I stayed over at Daniel's apartment for the first time. I woke at 2 in the morning to find the bed empty beside me. He was standing at the window staring at nothing, his hands shaking at his sides. "Engine room," he said when I approached. I still smell the smoke sometimes. I did not tell him it was okay. I just stood beside him until his hands stopped shaking. That was when I knew this was different from anyone I had dated before. I brought Daniel to a school basketball game that winter. He was awkward in the bleachers, unsure of the social rhythms, but he tried. One of my students, a troubled kid named Marcus Jr., took an instant liking to him. "You were really in the Navy? Like, on ships?" Daniel talked to that kid for an hour about discipline and choices and second chances. I watched from across the gym, something warm spreading in my chest. This man who carried scars inside and out still had so much to give. The differences between Daniel and the men my family expected me to date became clearer every day. He lived simply. Small apartment, used truck, a savings account he never touched. He sent money every month to a fallen shipmate's widow. He did not care about status or appearances or what other people thought. "My parents think success means a big house and a prestigious job," I told him one night, as we sat on his tiny balcony. Daniel considered this for a long moment. "My parents died when I was 19, he said. "Car accident. After that, success just meant waking up and being useful to someone." I realized then that this man understood something my family never would. 14 months after we met, Daniel suggested a weekend trip. "Nothing fancy," he said, "just fresh air." I agreed, happy to escape my mother's constant questions about where this relationship was going. We hiked for 2 hours through Shenandoah National Park, the autumn leaves painting everything gold and amber. Daniel was quieter than usual. He kept touching his jacket pocket and checking his watch. "Are we meeting someone?" I joked. He laughed, but it was strained. "Just checking the light," he said. "Sunset is at 6:12. We reached a clearing with a view of the valley below just as the sun began to set. Daniel stopped and turned to face me. "Ash, I need to tell you something." My heart stuttered. I had learned that "I need to tell you something" usually meant bad news. But Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden box. Inside was a simple silver ring with a single small diamond. "I made the band myself," he said. "Learned metalworking in the Navy. The diamond was my mother's. The only thing I have left of her." His eyes were bright with emotion. "I do not have much. I cannot give you a big house or a fancy car. I cannot impress your parents or fit into their world. But I can promise you this. I will show up. Every day. No matter what. I will never make you feel like you have to earn my love. Ashley Marie Brooks, will you marry me?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. The most genuine smile I had ever seen broke across his face. He slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. "How did you know my size?" "I measured your other rings while you were sleeping," he said. "Reconnaissance." I laughed and kissed him. And for one perfect moment, everything felt possible. That evening, sitting on the porch of our rented cabin, I called my mother. "Mom, I have news," Daniel proposed. I said yes. Silence on the line. The kind of silence I knew too well. "Proposed? Already?" "Ashley, you have only known him 14 months. That is longer than you knew Dad before you got engaged. Your father had prospects." Her voice sharpened. "What exactly does Daniel do again? Security consulting? That sounds like a fancy word for night watchman. He protects people, Mom. He is good at it." "And what is his 5-year plan? His retirement fund? Has he thought about any of this?" I felt the familiar tightness in my chest, the same constriction I had felt my entire life whenever I failed to meet her expectations. He thinks about being useful and being kind. That is his plan. My mother sighed. "I just want what is best for you, honey. And I am not sure a man without ambition can give you that." My father's voice came through in the background, then he took the phone. "Congratulations, sweetheart. But your mother is right. You could do better. That Harrison boy from the firm just made partner. Should I give his mother a call?" I hung up without saying goodbye. Daniel found me on the porch, my eyes wet with tears I was trying to hide. "Let me guess," he said, sitting beside me. "They were not thrilled. My mother asked about your retirement fund before she said congratulations. Daniel took my hand in his. I cannot make them see my value, Ash. I can only show you mine. Every day. Is that enough? I leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his body against the cool evening air. It is more than enough. It is everything. The first time Daniel met my parents 2 weeks later confirmed everything I already knew. My father's handshake was brief and dismissive. My mother looked at Daniel's second-hand suit with barely concealed disdain. My sister Megan whispered to me in the kitchen, "He is cute, I guess, if you like the strong, silent, poor type." But it was Grandpa Harold who pulled Daniel aside while everyone else made small talk. I watched from across the room as the old man shook Daniel's hand firmly and spoke words I could not hear. Later, Daniel told me what Harold said. "Welcome to the family, son. The real family, which is smaller than it looks." Daniel met my eyes from across that room, and his expression said everything. I understand now. Patricia walked into the funeral home with her arms outstretched, already performing grief she did not feel. But before I could face her, before I could speak the words that had been building inside me for years, my mind pulled me backward one more time. I needed to remember everything. Every slight, every dismissal, every wound. The first time my family met Daniel as my fiancé, I still believed I could win them over. I thought if they just got to know him, really know him, they would see what I saw. I was wrong. They saw exactly what they wanted to see, a man who was not good enough for their plans. The Brooks family home sat at the end of a circular driveway in Henrico County. White columns framed the entrance. Professional landscaping surrounded the property like a fortress of respectability. This was the house I grew up in but never felt at home in. 2 weeks after Daniel proposed, my mother insisted on hosting what she called a proper engagement dinner. I hoped this meant acceptance. I should have known better. Daniel wore his best suit that evening, the one he had bought for job interviews, charcoal gray with a subtle pinstripe. He checked his reflection 3 times before we left his apartment. Do I look okay? I want them to like me. The vulnerability in his voice made my heart ache. This man who had faced combat, who had pulled wounded sailors from burning engine rooms, was nervous about meeting my parents. You look perfect, I told him. But I knew perfection would not be enough for my family. Nothing ever was. My father answered the door with a bourbon already in his hand. His handshake with Daniel was brief, limp, dismissive. So you are the firefighter, Richard said. Navy, sir. 12 years. Now security consulting. Right. Same difference. My father turned and walked back into the house without another word. Daniel caught my eye. His expression did not change, but I saw him absorb the slight and file it away. My mother emerged from the kitchen a moment later. Her eyes scanned Daniel from head to toe, taking inventory. The second-hand suit, the scuffed dress shoes, the simple watch on his wrist that told time but announced nothing about status. She hugged me but looked over my shoulder at Daniel the entire time. Her smile did not reach her eyes. Daniel, welcome. Ashley has told us so little about you. The pause before the word little was deliberate. A tiny knife slipped between ribs with surgical precision. Daniel caught it. I caught him catching it. The evening had barely begun, and the wounds were already accumulating. The dining room table was set with my mother's finest china. Crystal glasses caught the light from the chandelier. Silver flatware flanked each plate in precise formation. Megan and her husband Tyler were already seated when we arrived. Tyler wore a custom suit that probably cost more than Daniel's monthly rent. His Rolex caught the chandelier light with every gesture. Megan was showing off her engagement ring, a 3-carat diamond that my parents had helped Tyler select. Ashley, let me see the ring, she demanded the moment I sat down. I extended my hand. Megan's smile flickered, just for a moment before she recovered. Oh, it is vintage. How unique. My mother leaned in for a closer look. Is that silver? White gold, I said, and the diamond was Daniel's mother's. His mother's? So it is secondhand. I felt Daniel's hand find mine under the table. His grip was steady, reassuring. Tyler smirked into his wine glass. No one said anything else about the ring. They did not need to. The judgment had been delivered. The meal began in awkward silence, broken only by the clink of silverware against china. My father finished his bourbon and poured another before speaking. "So, Daniel, security consulting." "What does that actually mean?" Daniel explained calmly. "Corporate risk assessment, facility protection, threat analysis." He described his work with precision and professionalism. My father nodded, unimpressed. "And the salary range for something like that?" Before Daniel could answer, my mother joined in. "Do you have a 401k? Benefits?" Megan added her voice to the chorus. "What about stock options?" "Tyler's firm gives amazing stock options." Tyler could not resist. 300% return last quarter. Not to brag. Daniel's voice remained even. "I have savings, military pension, good health insurance." My father set down his fork. "Pension? At your age? That is for retired people." "I served 12 years, sir. I earned it." Silence fell over the table. My father refilled his bourbon. The interrogation continued through the main course and into dessert, but Daniel never lost his composure. He answered every question directly, without defensiveness or apology. I had never admired him more. I tried to redirect the conversation. "Daniel is also volunteering with veteran transition programs," I said, "helping other servicemen find work." My mother's response was immediate. "That is nice, honey. Charity work is important, but it does not pay the mortgage." "We are not worried about the mortgage," I said, feeling my patience fray. "We are happy," Megan laughed. "Happy does not buy a house in a good school district, Ash." The condescension in her voice was familiar. I had been hearing it my entire life. "I am just worried about you, sis," Megan continued, leaning forward with false sympathy. Tyler and I started with a solid financial plan. That is why we could afford the Maldives for our honeymoon. "We are thinking about a cabin in the mountains," I said. "Daniel loves hiking." Megan's nose wrinkled. "A cabin? Like camping?" Tyler snorted. "Roughing it. How romantic." Daniel spoke quietly, but his words cut through the mockery. "Some of the best moments of my life happened in places with no electricity. You learn what matters when you strip away the extras." The table went silent. No one knew how to respond to sincerity. After dessert, my mother suggested the ladies clean up while the men had cigars. I hated this tradition, but I followed her to the kitchen. Daniel was left alone with my father and Tyler. In the kitchen, my mother wasted no time. "Ashley, sweetheart, I need to say something. Mother to daughter." I braced myself. This man, Daniel, he seems nice enough, but nice does not provide security. Mom, he makes me happy. Happiness fades. Bills do not. Have you thought about what happens if he gets hurt at work or cannot find steady employment? He has steady employment, for now. But men like him, they plateau, Ashley. They do not climb. Men like him. The phrase hung in the air like smoke. Megan appeared beside me while I was drying dishes. She whispered so my mother could not hear. "Between us? He is cute, kind of that rugged, broken thing some women like." "Megan," I started, "I am just saying there is still time." Tyler's colleague Jonathan just made VP single. Very interested when I mentioned you. "I am engaged, Megan. Engaged is not married. Rings come off." She walked away, leaving me gripping the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. In my father's study, Daniel was receiving his own version of family welcome. I learned the details later during the drive home. Richard poured whiskey and offered one to Daniel. "Man to man, Daniel. What is your plan?" "To love your daughter and build a life with her." "That is not a plan, that is a Hallmark card." My father leaned forward. "Ashley could have anyone. Doctors, lawyers, men with futures. Why should she settle for a security guard with a pension?" Daniel set down his untouched whiskey. "Because I will never make her feel like she is settling." He walked out of the study, found me in the kitchen, and said simply, "We should go." I did not argue. The drive home was silent for the first 10 minutes. I stared out the window, fighting tears. Daniel's hands were tight on the wheel. He spoke first. "I am sorry." "For what? You did not do anything wrong. I am sorry you have to choose. Between them and me." I turned to face him. "There is no choice, Daniel. I choose you. They are your family. Family does not make you feel worthless for loving someone." "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "Something I noticed tonight?" "Of course. Your mother kept refilling your wine, but not your water. Your father talked over you 6 times. Your sister touched her ring every time she looked at yours." I realized I had not consciously noticed any of those things. But Daniel had. He saw everything. They do not see you, Ash. They see a version of you that fits their story. And I do not fit that story. I do not want to fit their story anymore. Then let us write our own. The decision came to me suddenly, fully formed. We are not having a big wedding. What? I do not want their money, their venue, their guest list. I want something that is ours. Daniel smiled for the first time all evening. "I know a courthouse that is available next month." Perfect. The Richmond City Courthouse on a Tuesday afternoon in late spring. Sunshine streamed through tall windows. The air smelled of old wood and paper and possibility. Our guest list was small. Grandpa Harold, wearing his best suit, walked me down the short aisle. Marcus and 3 other Navy brothers stood with Daniel. 2 of my teaching colleagues sat in the back, dabbing their eyes. No Patricia, no Richard, no Megan. They were invited. They declined. A courthouse? We cannot be seen at a courthouse wedding. Their absence felt like freedom. I wore a vintage dress I found at a consignment shop. Ivory lace, tea-length, perfect for the woman I was becoming instead of the woman they wanted me to be. Daniel wore his navy dress whites, the only time he would wear them again. The judge smiled at us. "In all my years, I have never seen 2 people look at each other the way you do." After the ceremony, Harold pulled me aside. He handed me a worn leather notebook. Inside the cover, written in faded ink, were the words, "The truth always protects those who live honestly." "This was your grandmother's," Harold said. "She kept records of everything, every slight, every broken promise, every proof. She called it her memory book." "Why are you giving this to me?" Harold's eyes flickered toward the door, as if expecting unwanted visitors. "Because someday you might need to remember what really happened. When people try to rewrite history." I did not fully understand. I would later. The reception was pizza and champagne in the courthouse garden. Marcus raised a glass. To Daniel, who always had our backs, and to Ashley, who finally has his. Laughter and warmth and genuine joy filled the afternoon. I looked around at the small gathering and thought, this is what family is supposed to feel like. That night I checked my phone. No congratulations from my parents. 1 text from Megan. "Heard you went through with it. Hope you do not regret it." I deleted it without responding. 3 months after the wedding, we bought a small craftsman-style house in the suburbs of Richmond. It needed work. Peeling paint, overgrown yard, a porch swing with 1 broken chain. Daniel's savings plus a modest inheritance from my grandmother made the down payment possible. The bank approved our loan without help from my parents. My mother called it a fixer-upper in a declining neighborhood. I called it home. On moving day, Navy brothers showed up with trucks and tools and beer. They fixed the porch swing before unpacking a single box. Marcus patched the roof while another buddy rewired the kitchen. By sunset, the house was livable. Daniel led me to a small room at the back of the house, empty, freshly painted pale yellow. "I was thinking," he said, "this could be a guest room for now. But maybe someday something else. A nursery." The word hung unspoken between us. "Someday," I agreed, leaning into him. We stood in the doorway, imagining a future that would never come. That evening, as we ate takeout on the porch Daniel had promised we would grow old on, my phone rang. "Mom." I almost did not answer. "Hello." "Ashley, it is your mother. Megan has news. She is pregnant. We are throwing a shower next month. A big one. We will need your help with the expenses, of course. No, how is the new house? No congratulations on your marriage, just Megan. Always Megan." I hung up and stared at the phone. Daniel watched me carefully. What did she want? Money. For Megan's baby shower. Did she ask about us? The house? No. Daniel pulled me close. "I am sorry, Ash." I shook my head. "Do not be. Now I know exactly where I stand." I did not cry that night. But something inside me shifted. The first crack in the wall of hope I had built around my family. That wall would crumble completely. But it would take Daniel dying for me to finally let it fall. For 2 years after we bought that little house, life was everything I had dreamed. Daniel found his footing in the civilian world. I found my voice as a teacher. We built something real together, brick by brick, dinner by dinner, quiet evening by quiet evening. I should have known it could not last. The first signs came so quietly I almost missed them. Almost. The Craftsman house had transformed under our hands. Fresh paint covered the peeling exterior. The hedges were trimmed, the lawn green and healthy. The porch swing Daniel fixed on moving day swayed gently in the breeze, just as he had promised it would when we grew old together. Every corner of that home showed evidence of love. The kitchen we renovated ourselves, learning as we went. The bathroom with the crooked tile that made us laugh every time we noticed it. The yellow room at the back of the house, still waiting, still hopeful. Morning routines became sacred. Daniel made coffee while I graded papers at the kitchen table. He knew exactly how I liked it. Strong, with just enough cream to turn it the color of caramel. He would set the mug beside me without a word, drop a kiss on the top of my head, and start preparing breakfast. Weekend projects filled our days. We built raised garden beds in the backyard. We painted the spare room 3 different colors before settling on a soft sage green. We argued about curtains and laughed about our terrible taste in wallpaper. Neighborhood barbecues brought us closer to people who became friends. Daniel was everyone's favorite. He fixed lawnmowers without being asked. He helped elderly neighbors carry groceries. He was always the first to volunteer when someone needed something heavy lifted. I would watch him from the kitchen window. This man who had seen so much darkness, spreading light wherever he went. Daniel landed a job as security director at Henderson Logistics 18 months after our wedding. A mid-sized shipping company with warehouses across the East Coast. Real salary, real benefits, real respect. His military training translated perfectly to the civilian world. Threat assessment, personnel management, crisis protocols. He spoke that language fluently. His boss pulled me aside at a company picnic that summer. "Your husband saved us $200,000 his first year," he said. "Best hire I ever made." I received my own news that fall. Head of English department at Jefferson High, youngest department head in the school's history. I called Daniel from the parking lot, crying happy tears. He showed up 20 minutes later with flowers and champagne. "I knew it," he said, lifting me off my feet and spinning me around. "They finally see what I have always seen." That night, we sat on the porch and talked about the future. Maybe next year we would try for a baby. Maybe we would finally fill that yellow room with something other than hope. My parents sent a card for my promotion. Generic, unsigned by hand. Megan did not acknowledge it at all, but Daniel framed my promotion letter and hung it in the hallway. "So everyone who walks in knows who lives here," he said. That was enough. He was enough. I told myself I did not need them. The first headache came on a Tuesday evening, 18 months into Daniel's new job. I came home to find the house dark. Usually Daniel had dinner started by the time I arrived. The smell of something cooking, music playing softly, lights glowing warm through the windows. That night there was nothing. No lights, no sounds, no smell of food. My heart beat faster as I called his name. I found him in the bedroom, curtains drawn against the fading daylight, lying motionless on the bed. Daniel, are you okay? He did not open his eyes. Just a headache. Bad one. Started this afternoon. I sat beside him and touched his forehead. No fever. How bad? Like someone is driving a nail through my temple. I wanted to take him to the emergency room, but he refused. It is nothing, he insisted. Probably dehydration. I forgot to drink water during the security drill today. He sat up slowly, forcing a smile that did not reach his eyes. You know how it is. Stress. New project at work. Long hours. He pulled me close. Do not worry about me. Tell me about your day. I wanted to push. I wanted to demand answers. But he was already deflecting, already changing the subject, already being Daniel. I told myself it was just a headache. Everyone gets headaches. That night I woke at 3 a.m. Daniel's side of the bed was empty. I found him in the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face, his reflection pale and drawn in the mirror. It came back, he admitted. Woke me up. Daniel, this is not normal. I will see a doctor if it happens again. Promise. He went back to sleep. I lay awake until dawn, watching shadows crawl across the ceiling. The symptoms multiplied over the following weeks. I watched. I waited. I noticed things Daniel tried to hide. He started wearing sunglasses indoors. The light bothers me lately, he explained. He gripped the stair railing now, something he had never done before. His handwriting changed, becoming smaller and more cramped and less steady. He forgot the word refrigerator one morning and called it the cold box. He laughed it off. Getting old, I guess. I was putting away laundry when I found it, tucked in Daniel's sock drawer, hidden beneath folded clothing. A prescription bottle. Extra-strength migraine medication, prescribed 3 weeks ago. He had never mentioned seeing a doctor. The bottle was half empty. My hands shook as I placed it back exactly where I found it. Daniel started taking work calls in the garage. Better signal out there, he claimed. He canceled our hiking trip. Too much going on at the office. He stopped driving at night. My eyes are tired. Each excuse was reasonable on its own. Together they formed a pattern I did not want to see. Sunday morning, I was making pancakes when Daniel came downstairs. He missed the last step and caught himself hard against the wall. Damn carpet, he muttered. There was no carpet on the stairs. I pretended not to notice. Daniel pretended not to notice me pretending. We had become experts at denial, both of us protecting the other from a truth we were not ready to face. At night, when he fell asleep before I did, I would watch his face in the darkness, looking for signs of pain he would not admit to, counting his breaths like prayers. The phone rang on a Saturday afternoon while I was grading papers on the porch. Megan's name flashed on the screen. Ashley, perfect timing. I need to talk to you about something exciting. I waited. With Megan, exciting usually meant expensive. The whole family is planning a European vacation, she continued. Paris, Rome, Barcelona, 3 weeks. That sounds nice. It is going to be amazing, but we need everyone to chip in for the rental villa. Silence stretched between us. Ashley, you still there? How much? Just $8,000. That is your share. I almost dropped the phone. $8,000? It is actually a great deal. Tyler found this incredible place in Tuscany with a private pool, and Megan, we are saving. For the house, for the future. The future? Her laugh was sharp. Ashley, you have been married 3 years with no kids. What future are you saving for? The cruelty was casual, almost offhand. She did not even realize what she had said. We cannot afford it, cannot or will not. Daniel must be making decent money by now. It is not about what we make. It is about our priorities. Megan sighed dramatically. Fine. I will tell Mom and Dad you are too frugal to spend time with family. Do that. I hung up, hands trembling with anger. Daniel appeared in the doorway. Let me guess. They want something. Money. For a trip I am not invited to plan, just fund. He sat beside me on the porch swing. Some families take, some families give. Now you know which one you were born into? 3 weeks later, Thursday night, 2 in the morning. A crash from the bathroom yanked me from sleep. The door was closed, light seeping from underneath. I pounded on it. "Daniel! Daniel!" No answer. I forced the door open. Daniel was on the floor, eyes unfocused, blood running from a cut on his forehead where he had hit the sink going down. "I am fine," he slurred. "Just dizzy. Stood up too fast." He was not fine. I could see it now. The truth I had been avoiding for months. "You did not stand up too fast. Something is wrong." "Ash, I am okay. Stop. Stop lying to me." I was crying now, kneeling beside him on the cold tile floor. "I found the pills, Daniel. 3 weeks ago. I have seen you gripping the railings. I have watched you forget words." His face crumbled. "I did not want to worry you. You are scaring me more by hiding it." I helped him sit against the bathtub. He took a long, shaking breath. "The headaches started 6 months ago. I thought they would go away." 6 months? I went to the VA. They did some tests. Said I needed more tests. "What kind of tests?" His eyes met mine, and for the first time I saw fear. The kind they do when they are looking for something they do not want to find. My blood went cold. "I have an appointment Monday," he continued, "at the VA hospital, full neurological workup." "Why did you not tell me?" "Because if I said it out loud, it becomes real, and I am not ready for it to be real." I pressed my forehead to his. "Whatever it is, we face it together. That is what we promised. What if it is bad, Ash? What if I cannot—" "Then we handle bad. Together." We sat on the bathroom floor until dawn, holding each other, not speaking, not needing to. The following Saturday. A grocery store in our neighborhood. Bright fluorescent lights, soft music playing through the speakers, ordinary people doing ordinary shopping. I was at work. Daniel had volunteered to do the weekly grocery run. He texted me a photo of the produce aisle. "Strawberries look good. Getting extra." I smiled and texted back a heart emoji. It was the last normal moment we would ever have. 40 minutes later, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. "Mrs. Whitfield? This is the manager at Greenway Market. Your husband collapsed in aisle 7. The world stopped spinning. "Is he what happened?" "Paramedics are here. They are taking him to St. Mary's Medical Center. I was running before I hung up the phone." At the hospital, I found Daniel in the emergency room, conscious but pale. Monitors beeped around him. An IV snaked into his arm. Doctors conferred in hushed tones just outside the curtain. He reached for my hand the moment I appeared. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I was going to tell you tonight." A doctor approached. Her face was professionally neutral, but her eyes held something that made my stomach drop. "Mrs. Whitfield? I am Dr. Patel. We have run some preliminary scans." I gripped Daniel's hand tighter. "The scans show a mass in your husband's brain. We need to do more tests, but I want to prepare you." "Prepare me for what?" Dr. Patel hesitated. The pause that changes everything. "For the possibility that this is serious. Very serious." Daniel squeezed my hand. I squeezed back, and the world we had built so carefully began to crack. For 2 years after we bought that little house, life was everything I had dreamed. Daniel found his footing in the civilian world. I found my voice as a teacher. We built something real together, brick by brick, dinner by dinner, quiet evening by quiet evening. I should have known it could not last. The first signs came so quietly, I almost missed them. Almost. The Craftsman house had transformed under our hands. Fresh paint covered the peeling exterior. The hedges were trimmed, the lawn green and healthy. The porch swing Daniel fixed on moving day swayed gently in the breeze, just as he had promised it would when we grew old together. Every corner of that home showed evidence of love. The kitchen we renovated ourselves, learning as we went. The bathroom with the crooked tile that made us laugh every time we noticed it. The yellow room at the back of the house, still waiting, still hopeful. Morning routines became sacred. Daniel made coffee while I graded papers at the kitchen table. He knew exactly how I liked it. Strong, with just enough cream to turn it the color of caramel. He would set the mug beside me without a word, drop a kiss on the top of my head, and start preparing breakfast. Weekend projects filled our days. We built raised garden beds in the backyard. We painted the spare room 3 different colors before settling on a soft sage green. We argued about curtains and laughed about our terrible taste in wallpaper. Neighborhood barbecues brought us closer to people who became friends. Daniel was everyone's favorite. He fixed lawnmowers without being asked. He helped elderly neighbors carry groceries. He was always the first to volunteer when someone needed something heavy lifted. I would watch him from the kitchen window, this man who had seen so much darkness, spreading light wherever he went. Daniel landed a job as security director at Henderson Logistics, 18 months after our wedding, a mid-sized shipping company with warehouses across the East Coast. Real salary, real benefits, real respect. His military training translated perfectly to the civilian world. Threat assessment, personnel management, crisis protocols. He spoke that language fluently. His boss pulled me aside at a company picnic that summer. "Your husband saved us $200,000 his first year," he said. "Best hire I ever made." I received my own news that fall. Head of English department at Jefferson High. Youngest department head in the school's history. I called Daniel from the parking lot, crying happy tears. He showed up 20 minutes later with flowers and champagne. "I knew it," he said, lifting me off my feet and spinning me around. "They finally see what I have always seen." That night, we sat on the porch and talked about the future. Maybe next year we would try for a baby. Maybe we would finally fill that yellow room with something other than hope. My parents sent a card for my promotion, generic, unsigned by hand. Megan did not acknowledge it at all, but Daniel framed my promotion letter and hung it in the hallway. "So everyone who walks in knows who lives here," he said. That was enough. He was enough. I told myself I did not need them. The first headache came on a Tuesday evening, 18 months into Daniel's new job. I came home to find the house dark. Usually Daniel had dinner started by the time I arrived. The smell of something cooking, music playing softly, lights glowing warm through the windows. That night there was nothing. No lights, no sounds, no smell of food. My heart beat faster as I called his name. I found him in the bedroom, curtains drawn against the fading daylight, lying motionless on the bed. "Daniel, are you okay?" He did not open his eyes. "Just a headache." "Bad one. Started this afternoon." I sat beside him and touched his forehead. No fever. How bad, like someone is driving a nail through my temple. I wanted to take him to the emergency room, but he refused. "It is nothing," he insisted. "Probably dehydration. I forgot to drink water during the security drill today." He sat up slowly, forcing a smile that did not reach his eyes. "You know how it is. Stress. New project at work. Long hours." He pulled me close. "Do not worry about me. Tell me about your day." I wanted to push. I wanted to demand answers. But he was already deflecting, already changing the subject, already being Daniel. I told myself it was just a headache. Everyone gets headaches. That night I woke at 3 a.m. Daniel's side of the bed was empty. I found him in the bathroom splashing cold water on his face, his reflection pale and drawn in the mirror. "It came back," he admitted. "Woke me up. Daniel, this is not normal. I will see a doctor if it happens again. Promise." He went back to sleep. I lay awake until dawn, watching shadows crawl across the ceiling. The symptoms multiplied over the following weeks. I watched. I waited. I noticed things Daniel tried to hide. He started wearing sunglasses indoors. "The light bothers me lately," he explained. He gripped the stair railing now, something he had never done before. His handwriting changed, becoming smaller and more cramped and less steady. He forgot the word refrigerator one morning and called it the cold box. He laughed it off. "Getting old, I guess." I was putting away laundry when I found it. Tucked in Daniel's sock drawer, hidden beneath folded clothing. A prescription bottle, extra-strength migraine medication, prescribed 3 weeks ago. He had never mentioned seeing a doctor. The bottle was half empty. My hands shook as I placed it back exactly where I found it. Daniel started taking work calls in the garage. Better signal out there, he claimed. He canceled our hiking trip. Too much going on at the office. He stopped driving at night. My eyes are tired. Each excuse was reasonable on its own. Together they formed a pattern I did not want to see. Sunday morning. I was making pancakes when Daniel came downstairs. He missed the last step and caught himself hard against the wall. "Damn carpet," he muttered. There was no carpet on the stairs. I pretended not to notice. Daniel pretended not to notice me pretending. We had become experts at denial, both of us protecting the other from a truth we were not ready to face. At night, when he fell asleep before I did, I would watch his face in the darkness. Looking for signs of pain he would not admit to, counting his breaths like prayers. The phone rang on a Saturday afternoon while I was grading papers on the porch. Megan's name flashed on the screen. Ashley, perfect timing. "I need to talk to you about something exciting." I waited. With Megan, exciting usually meant expensive. "The whole family is planning a European vacation," she continued. "Paris, Rome, Barcelona, 3 weeks. That sounds nice. It is going to be amazing, but we need everyone to chip in for the rental villa." Silence stretched between us. "Ashley, you still there? How much?" "Just 8,000. "That is your share." I almost dropped the phone. $8,000? It is actually a great deal. Tyler found this incredible place in Tuscany with a private pool, and Megan, we are saving. For the house. For the future. The future? Her laugh was sharp. "Ashley, you have been married 3 years with no kids. What future are you saving for?" The cruelty was casual, almost offhand. She did not even realize what she had said. "We cannot afford it. Cannot or will not. Daniel must be making decent money by now. It is not about what we make. It is about our priorities." Megan sighed dramatically. "Fine. I will tell Mom and Dad you are too frugal to spend time with family. Do that." I hung up, hands trembling with anger. Daniel appeared in the doorway. "Let me guess. They want something. Money. For a trip I am not invited to plan, just fund." He sat beside me on the porch swing. "Some families take, some families give. Now you know which one you were born into." 3 weeks later, Thursday night, 2 a.m. A crash from the bathroom yanked me from sleep. The door was closed, light seeping from underneath. I pounded on it. "Daniel? Daniel!" No answer. I forced the door open. Daniel was on the floor, eyes unfocused, blood running from a cut on his forehead where he had hit the sink going down. "I am fine," he slurred. "Just dizzy, stood up too fast. He was not fine." I could see it now. The truth I had been avoiding for months. "You did not stand up too fast. Something is wrong. Ash, I am okay. Stop. Stop lying to me." I was crying now, kneeling beside him on the cold tile floor. "I found the pills, Daniel. 3 weeks ago. I have seen you gripping the railings. I have watched you forget words." His face crumbled. "I did not want to worry you. You are scaring me more by hiding it." I helped him sit against the bathtub. He took a long, shaking breath. "The headaches started 6 months ago. I thought they would go away." 6 months? "I went to the VA. They did some tests. Said I needed more tests." "What kind of tests?" His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw fear. The kind they do when they are looking for something they do not want to find. My blood went cold. "I have an appointment Monday," he continued, "at the VA hospital, full neurological workup." "Why did you not tell me?" "Because if I said it out loud it becomes real, and I am not ready for it to be real." I pressed my forehead to his. "Whatever it is, we face it together. That is what we promised. What if it is bad, Ash? What if I cannot? Then we handle bad. Together." We sat on the bathroom floor until dawn, holding each other, not speaking, not needing to. The following Saturday, a grocery store in our neighborhood. Bright fluorescent lights, soft music playing through the speakers. Ordinary people doing ordinary shopping. I was at work. Daniel had volunteered to do the weekly grocery run. He texted me a photo of the produce aisle. "Strawberries look good. Getting extra." I smiled and texted back a heart emoji. It was the last normal moment we would ever have. 40 minutes later, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. "Mrs. Whitfield? This is the manager at Greenway Market. Your husband collapsed in aisle 7. The world stopped spinning. Is he what happened? Paramedics are here. They are taking him to St. Mary's Medical Center." I was running before I hung up the phone. At the hospital, I found Daniel in the emergency room. Conscious but pale. Monitors beeped around him. An IV snaked into his arm. Doctors conferred in hushed tones just outside the curtain. He reached for my hand the moment I appeared. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I was going to tell you tonight." A doctor approached. Her face was professionally neutral, but her eyes held something that made my stomach drop. "Mrs. Whitfield, I am Dr. Patel. We have run some preliminary scans." I gripped Daniel's hand tighter. "The scans show a mass in your husband's brain. We need to do more tests, but I want to prepare you." "Prepare me for what?" Dr. Patel hesitated. "The pause that changes everything. For the possibility that this is serious." "Very serious." Daniel squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. And the world we had built so carefully began to crack. The next 72 hours were the longest of my life. Test after test, scan after scan. Doctors conferring in hallways with their faces carefully blank. Daniel held my hand through all of it, but I could feel him slipping into that place soldiers go when they are preparing for battle. He was already strategizing. I just did not know for what. My phone buzzed with a text from Megan while I sat in the emergency room waiting area. "Do not forget. Villa deposit, due Friday," with a smiley face emoji. I stared at the message, then deleted it without responding. The contrast was almost absurd. My husband might be dying and my sister wanted vacation money. St. Mary's Medical Center became our temporary home. A private room on the neurology floor with fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly and monitors that beeped in steady rhythm. The antiseptic smell never quite covered the fear underneath. Daniel endured every test without complaint. MRI, CT scan, lumbar puncture, blood panels. I watched helplessly as they wheeled him in and out of examination rooms, his hospital gown making him look smaller somehow, more vulnerable than I had ever seen him. I memorized the ceiling tiles above his bed, counted the cracks in the plaster. Anything to avoid thinking about what they might find. Between tests, Daniel was eerily composed. He asked the nurses about their families, thanked every technician by name, made small talk with the orderlies who transported him through sterile hallways. I finally asked him how he could be so calm. "In the Navy, we had a saying," he told me, his eyes steady on mine. "Panic is a luxury, focus is a choice. This is not a combat mission, Daniel." No, it is worse. In combat, I could fight back. The admission cracked his composure for just a moment before he sealed it shut again. I refused to leave the hospital. I slept in the chair beside his bed, waking at every beep of the monitors, every footstep in the hallway. At 2 a.m. on the second night, I opened my eyes to find Daniel staring at the ceiling. "Cannot sleep?" I whispered, thinking about the house. The gutters need cleaning before winter. Daniel! And the back fence, that loose board. I should have fixed it last month. I realized what he was doing, making lists, things he might not finish, projects he might never complete. I took his hand and said nothing. Some fears are too big for words. The next morning I went to get coffee from the vending machine down the hall. When I returned, Daniel was on his phone, speaking quietly with his back to the door. He hung up quickly when he saw me. "Who was that? Just Marcus. Checking in." Something in his voice did not ring true. But before I could push, the door opened and Dr. Patel appeared with 2 other physicians behind her. They led us to a small conference room off the neurology wing. 3 doctors meant serious news. I gripped Daniel's hand under the table so hard I thought I might break his fingers. Dr. Patel spoke first. We have the results. I want to be direct with you both." The words that followed changed everything. Daniel had a rare degenerative neurological condition linked to chemical exposure during his Navy service. Engine room chemicals, fire suppressants, industrial solvents. The VA had seen similar cases in veterans from his era. The disease attacked the nervous system progressively, balance first, then coordination, then motor function, eventually cognitive abilities. I heard myself ask the question I did not want answered. What does progressive mean? How long? Dr. Harrison, the neurologist, consulted his notes before responding. With aggressive treatment, medication, physical therapy, possible surgical intervention, we are looking at 18 to 24 months. The room tilted around me. 18 months. Less than the time we had been in our house. Less time than we had been married. Not enough time to have the children we had talked about. "And without treatment?" Daniel asked, his voice steady as stone. 12 to 15 months. Possibly less. Daniel nodded like he was receiving a mission briefing. I could not breathe. He asked the doctors questions I could not form. Will I lose my mind at the end? Cognitive decline is possible but not certain. Every case is different. Will I be able to walk, take care of myself? For a time. Eventually you will need full-time care, pain, manageable with medication. Daniel nodded again. Okay. What is the plan? I excused myself before they could answer. I barely made it to the hallway before my legs gave out. I collapsed against the wall, hand pressed over my mouth to muffle the sounds escaping my throat. A nurse passed and asked if I was okay. I waved her off, fighting for control that would not come. When I finally returned to the conference room, Daniel was already discussing treatment schedules with the medical team. He looked at me with such tenderness it nearly broke me again. We have got time, Ash. Let us not waste it. 2 days later, Daniel was discharged with a bag of medications and a stack of pamphlets about his condition. That evening I told him my decision. I am taking a leave of absence from school. Ashley, no, you just got promoted. I do not care about the promotion. You worked years for that position. And I would trade 100 positions for one more day with you. He stood, unsteady but determined, gripping the back of a kitchen chair for support. I will not let you put your life on hold for me. This is not putting my life on hold. This is my life. You are my life. What happens after? When I am gone? You will have no job, no savings. I will figure it out. I always do. I do not want you to have to figure it out. I want to know you are taken care of. We stared at each other, both breathing hard. I realized then that he was not just scared of dying, he was scared of leaving me vulnerable. I crossed to him and took his face in my hands. Listen to me, Daniel Whitfield. You spent 12 years taking care of everyone else. Your crew, your country, your shipmates. Now it is my turn. Ash. I am not asking permission. I am telling you what is going to happen. I will be here. Every day, every treatment, every hard moment. That is what in sickness and in health means. His composure finally cracked. He pulled me close, and I felt his shoulders shake with silent sobs. I do not deserve you, he whispered. You deserve everything. We drove to my parents' house the following weekend. I had called ahead to arrange a family meeting. I still believed somehow that a crisis would bring us together. That shared fear would override years of disappointment. Daniel insisted on coming despite his weakness. I want to see their faces when they hear, he said. I should have listened more carefully to what he meant. My father sat in his leather chair with bourbon in hand. My mother perched on the sofa with her lips pursed. Megan scrolled her phone, barely paying attention. Tyler checked his watch every few minutes. I delivered the news as clearly as I could. Daniel has a degenerative neurological disease. Terminal, 18 to 24 months. Silence filled the room. My mother's hand went to her chest. Oh, Ashley, that is terrible. She did not look at Daniel when she said it. My father cleared his throat. That is a shame. Real shame. He paused, swirling his bourbon. Now, I do not mean to be indelicate, but have you looked into the financial side? Military disability? Death benefits? I felt Daniel's hand tighten on mine. Dad, we just got the diagnosis 3 days ago. I understand, but these things take time to process. Better to start early. Who is the beneficiary on his life insurance policy? The room went cold. Daniel answered, his voice even despite the insult. Ashley is, as it should be. My father nodded. Good. Good. Just making sure things are in order. My mother's concern took a different form. Ashley, honey, you cannot just quit your job. What will people think? I do not care what people think, but your career, your reputation. My husband is dying, Mom. I am going to be with him. Well, of course, but there are facilities, professional caregivers. You do not have to. I want to. Megan finally looked up from her phone. Ashley, if you need money, I can lend you some. Just let me know the amount. Her voice was sweet, helpful, sisterly. I almost believed it. Thanks, Megan. I will keep that in mind. We left without a single hug offered to Daniel, not a single question about how we were coping, just financial inquiries and deflection. In the car, I cried the entire drive home. Daniel drove with one hand on the wheel and one hand holding mine. Now you see them, he said quietly. Now you really see. Later that night, he would tell me what he had observed. That offer was not free, he said about Megan's loan. Remember it, I would. The following weekend, trucks pulled into our driveway. Marcus had called Daniel 3 days earlier. Heard the news through the grapevine. What do you need? Nothing, brother. We are handling it. Wrong answer. We are coming. 3 trucks, 5 veterans, their wives. They brought food, casseroles and soups and frozen meals that filled our freezer for weeks. They brought tools. One team fixed the gutters Daniel had worried about. Another repaired the loose fence board. A third painted the trim that had been peeling since summer. They brought presents, sitting on the porch with beers, telling old stories that made Daniel laugh despite everything. Marcus pulled me aside while the others worked. The guys want to help. We are setting up a fund. Medical expenses, whatever you need. Marcus, we cannot accept. You can and you will. Daniel pulled my ass out of a fire. Literally. This is what we do. By the end of the month, that fund would hold $12,000. From men who served with Daniel, men who never forgot what he had done for them. My own family would not contribute a single cent. I watched these men, rough and tattooed and scarred, treat my husband with such tenderness. They adjusted pillows without being asked, refilled his water glass before it was empty, never let him feel weak or pitied. One of them, a giant everyone called Chief, sat with Daniel for an hour talking about fishing. When he left, his eyes were red. I thought about the contrast. My parents asked about insurance. These men brought casseroles. That night, after everyone had gone, Daniel spoke words I would never forget. Your parents asked about my insurance. My brothers brought me casseroles. I nodded, unable to speak. I need you to remember that difference, Ash, when I am gone. Do not talk like that. I am not being morbid. I am being honest. They will come for you after. And I need you to remember who was really there. 3 weeks later, I was cleaning the kitchen while Daniel rested after a physical therapy session. His voice drifted from the bedroom, low and urgent. I moved closer, not meaning to eavesdrop, but something in his tone made me pause. Yes, I understand. Harold, I need this done right. Ashley cannot know. Not yet. My grandfather's name. My heart stuttered in my chest. The paperwork needs to be airtight. I have seen what they are like. A pause while Harold responded. The house, the insurance, all of it. I want her protected. Legally. Completely. I pressed my back against the wall, barely breathing. Because they will try to take it. You know they will. I will not let that happen. Another pause. I know you understand. You have watched them for years. Thank you, Harold, for everything. I backed away from the door, my heart pounding. Daniel was planning something with my grandfather, something to protect me from my own family. Part of me wanted to confront him. Part of me was grateful beyond words. I returned to the kitchen and resumed washing dishes, my hands shaking. When Daniel emerged, he kissed my forehead. "Everything okay?" "Fine, just tired." I did not mention what I heard. But that night, lying beside him in the darkness, I understood something I had not fully grasped before. He was preparing for the end, and he was making sure I would survive what came after. The realization was terrifying and tender in equal measure. Daniel was fighting a war I did not fully understand yet, but he was fighting it for me. 8 months passed after the diagnosis. 8 months of treatments, of good days and bad days, of learning to live in the shadow of an ending. But something else was happening too, something I did not see clearly until it was almost too late. While Daniel fought to stay alive, my family was circling, waiting, and one of them was getting closer than I ever expected. I lay awake that night, Daniel sleeping beside me, his breathing shallow but steady. My mind kept returning to a phone call I had overheard a week earlier. Daniel talking to my grandfather Harold in hushed tones. "I need your help with some paperwork. Ashley cannot know yet." I had not confronted him about it. If Daniel needed to protect me in secret, I would let him. Some battles, I was learning, are fought in silence. But the not knowing gnawed at me. What was he planning? What did he see that I could not? And why did he feel the need to hide it from me? I watched his face in the darkness, memorizing every line, every shadow. This man who had spent his life protecting others was still protecting me, even as his own body betrayed him. I did not know whether to feel grateful or terrified, maybe both. Megan's car pulled into our driveway on a Tuesday afternoon, the 3rd time that week. Over the past 2 months, my sister had become a regular presence in our lives. She brought groceries without being asked, homemade soup that filled our freezer, fresh flowers for the kitchen table. She offered to sit with Daniel so I could run errands or take a shower or simply breathe for a few minutes. At first, I was overwhelmed with relief. Maybe I misjudged her, I thought. Maybe crisis brings out the best in people. Maybe my sister finally understood what family meant. I told Daniel one evening after Megan left. She is really stepping up. I never expected this. Daniel's response was measured, careful. People do not change overnight, Ash. They just show different faces. I noticed things after that, small things. Daniel never fully relaxed when Megan was there. His eyes tracked her movements around our home. He listened carefully to every question she asked, cataloging them in some mental file I could not access. One afternoon, Megan offered to organize our filing cabinet. "You have so much paperwork," she said brightly. "Medical bills, insurance documents, all those VA forms. Let me help." Daniel's voice was pleasant but firm. "That is kind, but I have got a system. Do not want to confuse things." Megan's smile flickered. Just for a moment something passed across her face, something cold beneath the sweetness. Then it was gone, and she was sunny again. "Of course, just trying to help." The pattern became clear once I started looking. Megan's visits always included questions. "How are the treatments going? Are they expensive? This house is so cozy. Have you thought about what you would do with it after? Does Daniel's military insurance cover everything? Some policies have caps, you know." Each question seemed innocent on its own, helpful even, concerned, but together they formed a map of our finances, our assets, our vulnerabilities. I started to see my sister with new eyes. The woman who brought soup was also the woman who inventoried our possessions. The sister who sat with my dying husband was also the sister who calculated the value of our home. I did not want to believe it, but the evidence was accumulating, whether I was ready to see it or not. Saturday morning. Daniel was napping after physical therapy, exhausted from exercises that used to be effortless. Megan was helping me clean the kitchen, scrubbing counters with cheerful efficiency. I realized we were out of dish soap. "I will run to the store real quick," I said, Will you be okay with Daniel? Megan waved me off. Go, go. Take your time. The store was only 10 minutes away. I found the soap, grabbed a few other items, and headed back. I parked in the driveway but did not go inside immediately. I was checking my phone, responding to a message from a colleague. The kitchen window was cracked open for ventilation. I heard Megan's voice, clear as a bell. No, Mom. She still does not suspect anything. My blood turned to ice. I sat frozen in the car, listening. The house is worth at least $400,000. Maybe more with the renovations they did. A pause while Patricia responded. I know, but we have to be patient. She is not going to just hand it over. Another pause. The life insurance is substantial. I saw a letter on the counter. Military policy plus his company plan. We are talking serious money. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Yes, I am keeping track. She trusts me now. When the time comes, we will be in position. Megan laughed, the same laugh I had heard 1,000 times growing up. Now it sounded like something else entirely. Do not worry. Tyler is already looking into the legalities. Ashley does not understand any of this. She will need guidance. Another pause. Just make sure Dad is ready to play the concerned father. She responds to that. I could not move, could not breathe. My sister, my only sister, was planning to manipulate me out of everything Daniel and I had built. With my mother, with my father, with her husband. While Daniel was still alive, while I was drowning in grief and exhaustion. They were not helping. They were positioning. I forced myself to walk in through the front door, making noise so Megan would hear me coming. By the time I reached the kitchen, she was off the phone, smiling as if nothing had happened. That was quick, she said. Did you find everything? I looked at my sister. The same face I had known for 32 years. The same smile, the same eyes, everything familiar. Nothing true. Yeah, I said. I found exactly what I needed. That evening, after Megan left and Daniel fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with our laptop. I needed to see for myself. I logged into our joint savings account and scrolled through the transactions. Something was wrong. The balance was lower than it should be, much lower. I found the first withdrawal, $2,500 on October 3rd, a TM withdrawal, then another, $3,000 on October 19th, and another, $2,500 on November 2nd. I had not made these withdrawals. Daniel had not left the house alone in months. I checked the ATM locations. All of them were across town, near the mall, near places Megan liked to shop. My hands shook as I pulled up older statements. More withdrawals, smaller amounts, going back 4 months, total missing. Approximately $15,000. The memory surfaced slowly. Years ago, when I first opened this account, Megan had helped me with the paperwork. She was added as an emergency contact with card access. In case something happens to you, she had said. Family should have access. I never removed her. Another memory. 3 weeks ago, Marcus had brought an envelope. From the guys, he said, for medical expenses. $10,000 cash. We know insurance does not cover everything. I had put it in our bedroom closet, tucked safely in a shoebox. I went to check now. The shoebox was there. The envelope was empty. I sat on the bedroom floor, holding the empty envelope, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. Money from men who loved Daniel. Men who had served beside him, who had donated from their own pockets to help their brother. Stolen. By my own sister. While she smiled and brought soup and pretended to care, I did not cry. I was past crying. Something colder and clearer settled into my bones. The next morning, Daniel was having a good day. Alert, strong enough to sit on the porch in the weak autumn sunlight. I sat beside him and told him everything. The phone call I overheard, the withdrawals, the missing cash. He listened without interrupting. His face cycled through emotions, anger, resignation, then something harder. I knew, he said. I stared at him. What? Not all of it. But I suspected. That is why I have been working with Harold. How long have you known? Since she offered to lend us money. Nobody offers money they do not plan to collect. I felt the pieces clicking into place. Daniel had seen it before I had. He always did. I noticed the withdrawals 2 months ago, he continued. Did not say anything because I was gathering evidence. Evidence for what? For after Ash. For when they try to take everything. He reached for my hand, his grip weaker than it used to be but still steady. I have been documenting every visit, every question, every helpful suggestion. Dates, times, what was said. Harold has copies of everything. Why did you not tell me? His eyes were infinitely sad. Because you still wanted to believe in them. I did not want to take that away until I had to. The truth of his words cut deep. I had wanted to believe. Despite everything, despite years of evidence to the contrary, I had held on to hope that my family loved me. That hope felt foolish now. Naive. You are dying, Daniel. And you are spending your time protecting me from my own family. That is what love is, Ash. Protecting what matters. Even when you are scared. Especially when you are scared. That afternoon, Daniel asked me to drive him to Harold's apartment. The old man's home was small but immaculate. Books lined the walls, legal texts, family histories, estate planning guides. The organized mind of a retired lawyer was visible in every carefully arranged shelf. Harold greeted us with firm handshakes despite his frail body. He led us to his small dining table and produced a USB drive. "This has everything," Daniel said. Bank statements showing the unauthorized withdrawals, screenshots of Megan's social media, time-stamped posts from locations matching the ATM withdrawals. My notes on every conversation where they asked about money, insurance, the house. Harold took the drive and nodded. "I will add it to the file." "What file?" I asked. Harold opened a drawer and pulled out a thick manila folder. Inside were documents, printouts, handwritten notes in Daniel's increasingly shaky handwriting. "Daniel and I have been building a case," Harold explained. "Not for court, but for clarity. When the time comes, you will have